Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Xaphal, and today we have with us Shilpa Vohra. How are you?
Thank you, Panisha.
So before we move towards the question answer session, tell our viewers a little bit about what you are currently doing.
Okay. So I have about now we can say more than 30 years, 3 decades of work experience, right from a postgraduate, immediately after doing my master's. I have worked with Tata Consultancy Services, and within you can say 1 year's time, I understood that that's not my cup of tea. 9 to 5 job is not something that I relish. It was not a very strategic role.
Right.
And then henceforth, I, along with my husband, we ventured into non-banking finance company, and we were lucky at that particular time because there were no FIRs into the market. So if you look at my career graph, you'll see it's very organic in nature, and I'm diversified a lot in terms of my abilities and capabilities. So 2001 onwards, incidentally, I've done my master's in marketing and my things in finance, and then I was teaching in the area of general management from 2001 onwards. And then 2008 onwards, it was totally more into teaching, and organic training also happened in a very organic manner that I felt, yeah, this is the next step ahead.
Okay.
So I've written a book around the same area, 2012. It was released through VNS Publishers, and the name of the book is Your Hired Resume Se Interview. It dwells on these areas only: how do you prep for your interviews, how to clear the interviews, and once you land the job in the corporate, then how do you take it ahead? Because a multiple number of times you're able to crack that job, but then people are not very happy wherever they're placed. So how do you understand that it has to be a right fit? So it looked in that particular area also.
So what you are currently doing?
So currently I'm conducting a lot of programs in the area of confidence building, coaching individual clients again in the area of presentation and public speaking skills. Also corporate trainings are going on. So yeah.
Okay.
And obviously teaching is my first passion.
Okay. So if we talk about if a student would like to get into your field, so what are the skill set and qualification required? Can you explain a little?
Okay, so there are two qualifications for this. One is the academic part of it. So like if you see my journey, though I have specialized in marketing, I have aligned myself with a lot of other certifications which are in various other areas. So I've constantly kept myself updated. So right from graphology, metaphor therapy that we have, NLP certifications, a lot of other such certifications which ensure you have the skill sets for the delivery part of it as far as the training is concerned, and whichever other area you would like to be working in. So constant updation is something that I would recommend students to do, and always follow your passion rather than trying to evaluate, trying to walk on someone else's path is what I would suggest.
As a career counselor, how you help students to identify what is their dream job and what they can do. So how you identify is there any set of questions or something?
Right. So it always starts with a self-awareness journey, understanding oneself first. Each one of us is a very, very different individual, and what works for A will not work for B. And students themselves, sometimes they're so very they don't have clarity in terms of they have clarity in terms of the designation that they want, or maybe the pay package that they're looking at, and they feel maybe a particular area is very attractive to be looking at presently. That is something that's driving maybe more jobs available in that area. So maybe it's business analytics. But once they start, and so I can give you an example. Currently, I'm teaching with one of the best colleges over here in Mumbai, and I'm teaching this particular course. And over here, I'm teaching business ethics. And we have some students who are into business analytics, and they've told me that when they entered this course, they felt that this is something that they wanted to take ahead. But now they're finding after doing an internship that this is not something that they want to do consistently for a longer period of time. So this is a question that you need to ask yourself, that day in and day out, if I have to do this particular work, will I feel passionate about it? So
Right.
this is the question I get asked. So some of my students ask me, so many of my trainees ask me, ma'am, every year you're teaching, is it okay? You're teaching the same thing. I told them, no, I'm not teaching the same thing because each year, even I'm evolving, I'm
Right.
updating myself. So it's not the same. And my students are not the same. My audience is not the same. So
Right.
it's never the same.
So, like for example, if anyone would like to choose a particular field, they should know that what are their strengths and what are their
Perfect.
weaknesses is.
Yes. So you need to correct. You need to have self-awareness about what are your choices, what are your abilities. So there is one thing I may like something, but I have an intellectual capacity which limits me to this level. So I need to be aware about that. Plus, there would be certain areas in which you'll do fabulously well. So there would be people who would not be great at rote learning, but who are very, very creatively inclined, maybe very good with language skills. Then you have to be looking at the newer jobs which come in, maybe content writing, something in the advertising area. You'll really flourish over there.
Right. So as all of the students are watching this show, so would you like to mention some of the skills, like how they can crack their first interview?
How they can, okay. So I have been running a very successful campus to corporate program for a number of colleges, and this is what I do over there. I groom students in terms of how do they reach out and how do they crack their interviews. So
Right.
one of the first things is that you need to have something what we call as a PI script ready with you. That means you need to have your personal PI script, interview script ready with you.
Okay.
You also need to that is at your end. So we all have these list of FAQs that are there. So frequently asked questions, tell me something about yourself, because that at least you should not be failing at that particular level. You should be able to cross that basic border level that is there. So tell me something about yourself. Why should we hire you? Where do you see yourself 5 years down the line? So these are very base questions, base level questions, but you should have a perspective towards them. How much to answer, what to answer, and you need to have a very organized answer, and you have to be 100% confident in answering that particular question, whatever it would be. Also, if I'm looking at a technical job, then you would have to pass some sort of an aptitude test. So that aptitude level preparedness also has to be there with you. After which you would have a round in which maybe the immediate reporting team members would be there, and they would ask you jobs around, they would ask you questions which revolve around the area in which you would be operating in.
Okay.
So how do we go about that? You need to have a strong networking when you're a student itself. So typically when we are in our second year, so if I'm doing an MBA also, you'll be in your second year. If
Right.
you're doing a graduation engineering, you would be having seniors, right?
Right.
You need to have a rapport, you need to have a network with them, and understand that when they have gone in for their interviews, what are the typical questions they have been asked. Those who have been successful in cracking that particular interview, then what were the questions that they were asked. So at least we get a broad idea in terms of how to prep, and you need to prep for your answers over there. I understand this, that we cannot have, or we don't have any fixed sort of format as far as interview questions go in, but your preparation should be there 100%. And then maybe even if a question is thrown in, your level of confidence would be on the higher side, that yes, I'm prepped for it. Maybe I can mix my answers and give an answer on the spot over there, because that prep will give you the confidence and everything.
To do this preparation, communication plays an important role.
Absolutely,
How one
absolutely.
can,
So,
yeah.
something as so we have students who maybe uh, this would be there, that you might have a student might have lost a year. Maybe they are not so great academically, and you could be questioning something like this. So maybe your academic records are not so great, and then why should I hire you? Or
Right.
maybe you lost a year, or maybe you've done 1 year of engineering, and then you're coming and doing this particular course, and then in that case, why should I hire you? At
Right.
that time, your level of confidence and your perspective is something that's going to take you through, nothing else. So you can say that is your perspective, but that is not my perspective. I feel that I've learned during that particular year, and it's sensible that I've realized that this is not something that I want to do day in and day out. And if I made, in fact, I'll say I'm on the braver side, that I
Right.
realized that this is not working for me and I've changed. So that if you're able to answer this with a certain level of conviction and confidence, over your communication skills would matter a lot.
So is there any pro tips you would like to share or would like to give to our audience that might be helpful for them to improve their communication skills?
Could you just
Like
repeat?
any tips would you like to give to our audience to improve their communication skills, self-help tips?
Okay, so today what you're looking at when you're seeing me, so you could see someone who is confident as far as English
Yeah.
speaking skills are concerned, or maybe I've not met you before, but I'm able to converse freely. This
Yeah.
was not the case when I was in school and maybe even in college. I was an extremely shy child. I would rarely open my mouth unless asked to. So if I could transfer that journey from there to you, everyone can do it. It's just a matter of determination. It's a matter of being articulate. It's a matter of taking that first one step. And in this, we should not be looking at someone. There is nothing called as perfection in this, first of all.
Right.
Everyone has their own innate style of communication. Everyone has their own innate strength from where you would want to communicate. And you should enjoy that, relish it. You should enjoy your moment of communication also and reflect on it. No one is perfect. None of us, even I'm not perfect. And each time we can reflect on what has not worked for us before and maybe improve on those particular areas. That's a wonderful journey to take ahead.
Is like watching some of the series or reading books helpful or some
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And not just so reading books is something that I prescribe by.
Yeah.
We get that I don't know if you're saying chana singh you used to get those chana singh in the paper. I read that paper also, and that's how it has to be. So you should read everything that comes your way, and the more varied it is, the better it is. So it need not be, if someone will tell me I need to read only non-fictional, nothing like that. You can read fictional, you can read non-fictional. Fictional will improve your language abilities, also your articulation, your vocab becomes more stronger, your understanding of grammar without actually studying grammar also becomes stronger, isn't it? That's my understanding. And when I'm looking at non-fiction, it should be from variety of areas of life that we are looking at. So it can be from deeper interest, whichever philosophical, spiritual, whatever your passion is. And beyond that also.
Right.
The more you read, and more reflection also. So just don't leave it at reading.
Right.
This is something that I share with my students. So typically in all these schools everywhere, all students are asked that you should be reading a paper and then you should be making notes. But
Right.
it should not remain till that place. You should be able to articulate it and use it in your maybe decision making, maybe in defending your answers, maybe formulation of answers, and linking it all together is what actually ultimately matters.
Great way. Talking about like communication is also a crucial part. Apart from that, networking plays a crucial role when it comes to jobs.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my students would, or young professionals who reach out to me may land that particular job, but after getting that job, then what? So how do you then survive over there in that world outside? That's also essential. So that is the moment. I've also reflected on this aspect. See, like when we look at our school education, right, from a junior KG towards to 10th standard and maybe 11th, 12th, and then your graduation, everything is quite structured for us, isn't it? We're told this is the first day, this is the end day, this is your semester, these are the times your internals have to be given, and so on. But life doesn't happen like this in pop. And we start working. You're left much to your own. So all of a sudden, from a very restricted environment, you're just left out on your own, and it becomes difficult. You don't know whom to reach out to.
Right.
You suddenly find this need that you have to become, or I'll suggest that these are the top 3 skills that you need to have in your place once you start working somewhere. And we keep a rule that is said to be 90, 60, and 30. Right. So within 30 days, what? Within 60 days, what? And within 90 days, what? Within 30 days, you should be well connected with your team. They should be knowing you. You should be knowing them. You should be in your comfort zone when you're communicating with them.
Right.
Being accessible is one thing that we'll be looking at. You have to be accessible and you have to be visible for your team. Right. That means if any work is asked for, be proactive, accept the responsibility, say, okay, I'll be willing to do this. So that's accessibility and visibility also, that you're always present, be there.
Right.
The next thing is 60. That means we have to now go beyond in the next 60 days, we have to go beyond our own team to look at the other teams which are working. We need to know who are the team members who are working there, who are the not according to their designation, but according to the job role that they're doing and the importance in the whole scheme of things. So you have to be smart about that. Now, this is something that's never taught in a textbook,
Yes.
never taught in our school, but this is a life skill that's required. And in the next 90 days, you should be knowing in the whole team who are the top players in your organization and by their name, and more importantly, they should know you by your name. That would make a difference. Now you're visible also, you'll be accessible also, and people will know you. That's so essential, because a lot of times when we need to get our work done in any corporate system that we are looking at, it's not necessarily that it will be done through the organized manner.
Right.
It's more your informal relations with people, your informal way, or without any reason, when you're reaching out to people, you're being friendly with them, you'll be able to get your work done that way easier.
Sometimes people find it very difficult to, initiate a conversation with the different teams or with different people. So would you like to mention how one can initiate a conversation?
So something as I'll always say this, who doesn't like to listen to a good compliment? What will you say to that?
True.
Yeah, isn't it? Everyone likes to be told, okay, you've done a great job. I appreciate what you're doing. That's the best way in which you can start any conversation. That's the best positive way. And let me tell you, let it not be a falsified sort of a compliment. Let it be a genuine compliment. Let it be to a core sort of a compliment. So someone has done something promptly, is visible, is doing some work in a in a very definitive manner. We need to compliment that person. That could be a beginning place from where you start your conversation. Something as this one, always carry a smile with you. That works wonders.
True.
So smiling personality, reaching out to people, say a hi, hello, how have you been? How was your day? Just beginning and then compliment always.
Right. It's important in that way. And
the hardest of hearts melt with the soft word of compliment is something.
True. So how one can work with like their LinkedIn or social networking sites? Like you have a wonderful profile over LinkedIn. So what do you say? What do you want to say about that?
So you need to brand yourself on LinkedIn, and you need to reinvent yourself also in LinkedIn as something. It doesn't mean that I've branded myself in a particular way. You have to keep on reinventing yourself. You have to try to make it relevant according to the work you're doing and the sort of work that you're seeking ahead. So in LinkedIn, something that I would tell to youngsters who are joining corporates, maybe first of all, ensure that all of you are connected on LinkedIn through immediately. Also ensure that you are showcasing the body of work that you are doing.
Right.
And not just showcasing, I have done this. If you want to be a thought leader, then your post, the content part of it has to be more thoughtful. So there's one post that says, this is what I've done today and this is what I've achieved. The other is a little bit more introspective. If I want to be a thought leader in the area wherever I'm doing my work, then my posts have to be introspective in that respect. Do you agree with what I was saying?
Yeah, true.
Since you're very active on LinkedIn.
Yes. I agree with that. Also would like to know that you do have experience in public speaking. Tell our viewers some pro tips that might help them to become a public speaker or even to speak confidently in front of 5-6 people.
Yeah. So public speaking or any sort of speaking, whether it's in the front of 3 people or whether it's in the front of 100 or 1,000, it's ultimately speaking. And I think it's more persuasive and it matters because when we start working, if you're looking at your job roles, you would be facing clients and you would have to convince them, this is my product and please go for it. Or this is my particular project. Maybe I want maybe I'm talking just to my team members, forget about public speaking, but there are certain areas in which I have concerns or there is something that I've done, I'll have to convince them that this is why. So that is also a speaking that is more persuasive speaking. But we need to have some sort of skills over here in place. At that time, after doing a great job, so I've seen this multiple number of times. There are 2 types of personalities. One will be a great detail-oriented person, but not a people person. So we'll not speak up. And there'll be someone else who will be who will not do the work, but who will take away the credit because he's very good, he or she is very good. That individual is very good with the gift of gab.
Right.
It's so essential that you should be, if you're doing the great work, then you should be able to get the credit for whatever you've done. And hence this persuasive. So what you've highlighted is true. I'll say that we have to divide whenever, whatever the length of my presentation, my talk, we have to divide it into 3 parts. One is the pre, that means how do I prep for it? What is the content that I'm looking at? And it will all start with something as simple as purpose. What is the purpose of that particular presentation at the end of it? At the end of that, what is the goal of it? What do you want to achieve at the end? Okay? So that's one part of it. Then trying to get your data in place. Next, prepare a presentation script. So knowledge is another part. It's actually like an iceberg. So whenever you speak, what you speak should be the top of the iceberg. And your knowledge should be 3/4 below. That 3/4 below will give you the confidence of at the time of delivery. You know, you innately have that confidence. I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And yes, you can throw questions at me. It doesn't matter because my knowledge base is quite strong.
Yeah.
So there is a difference. Unfortunately, people don't understand this. There's a difference between having the knowledge and presenting the knowledge. So like in interviews, we have something like called as a interview script, your personal interview script. Even in presentations, you need to have your presentation scripts in place. So beginning, maybe a structure in sense of, or some sort of a sequence to it, any logical sequence. So it could be chronological, time frame wise, cause, action, and then effect. Anything that suits your purpose. So a structure of 3 is what we would recommend, and then an end to it, conclusion to it. This is a script.
What is the structure of 3? Would you like to explain a little bit?
Pardon?
Structure of 3. What is the structure of 3? Would you like to?
So there was a research done by George Miller on this. So if you look at our telephone digit numbers, now mobile digit, do you remember all the phone calls, that numbers that you have? No.
Yes.
But there was a time when we used to have those phones, right? So 6-digit numbers, and later on maybe 7, 5, 6, and 7 as the number of subscribers started increasing. I recollect distinctly that we would remember and could rattle off so many numbers. And the reason is very simple. Our brain is able to remember in brackets of 6, not more than that. So this is how our brain remembers. That's why we say that whenever you want to talk something, it should be in the area of 3. And then you fill up those 3 buckets with whatever information you want. And then you link it up. And you will find that it suffices. And if you watch any of the great orators of our time, you'll observe they also speak not more than 2 points or 3 points. They may talk a lot. They will fill up those buckets, we say, of those 3s with a lot of facts and figures, information, questions, stories, everything that you could think of, but not beyond that. Because an audience doesn't have that much retention capacity.
Great.
And then towards the end, we have the conclusion. But this was your prep thing. The main thing is your delivery. So in your delivery, your body language would matter. Your eye contact would matter. Your postures would matter. Your confidence matters the most when you're delivering.
So how to boost confidence?
So typically when I do any sort of coaching for presentation skills, I always start with the self-awareness exercise. To understand yourself, self-motivation, where am I coming from? What are the areas that I need to be looking at? And getting that confidence and looking at our past achievements and saying, so many times, what happens in life, we tend to negate our own achievements.
True.
We tend to undersell ourselves somehow in the line. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, true, totally. Yeah.
And especially in our low moments. So we all need that moment, and we do it through exercises. So I have specially curated exercises, which I do, wherein we start acknowledging ourselves in a very structured manner, in which it is done in a self way. Also analyzing what's your style of communication. That's also very essential as far as confidence building is concerned. Setting up a boundary. So style of communication is, there are 3 major styles of communication. We have aggressive, which is self-explanatory. People will roll up their shoulders. Okay.
Yeah.
Then there is assertive, who'll set correct boundaries and be upfront about
Right.
whatever is, and passive. So whatever you do, I'm not going to say anything. I have no boundaries. You can just walk all over me. So if you have aggressive or passive styles of communication, then there are internal issues to your confidence.
Okay.
So even if, I always believe that internally things have to be corrected for that confidence to be projected externally.
Yes.
Internally, when we are on the right footing and when we are able to, so passive communication is in a group. If someone is going to give, so let me look at an informal situation. Maybe we're a group of friends, we all decide, okay, let's meet and we have to go out somewhere for lunch, and I want to go somewhere, but you, maybe three of you suggested some other place, and I'll not even voice my opinion. That's passive.
Okay.
And I'll carry that resentment, and I'll carry that feeling within me that Shilpa, you've not spoken up for yourself. And that is a place from where a loss of confidence comes. So always teach these things, that you have to learn to set your boundaries, and you have to voice.
Right.
And voice up in a polite and a correct pattern,
Okay.
so that you don't end up feeling, with a low self-confidence. That's the place from where we actually start our confidence building. And trust me, up till now, it's done wonders to a lot of people. And then you start working on the whole process that I shared with you, that this is how you make your presentations, that you do your preparation, you do a script, and then you work on the delivery part.
Is there any self-help tips that might help? We can do it at our home, or like something, like some practices or something. Would you like to share?
So any references for such self-help books you're talking about? I'll rather say, why don't you all watch videos? Because podcasts are the thing. You could watch videos, or you could watch people. You could watch interviews of people
Right.
who are fabulous in their communications.
Right.
You can watch political figures who
True.
speak very well, who are very articulate. I'm sure you'll be able to place them in a minute. And we also start realizing, that why do we like listening to them? Because they're so firm and they're so full of conviction when they're talking. Their body language is so very apt. They're not reading from the teleprompter. All these things you can start imbibing, that we understand, okay, these are the things that we have to follow. And you can also look at people who are very dull, who are
Right.
lifeless when they are speaking, who are looking at the teleprompter, maybe looking
Yeah.
down at the notes, maybe looking at the mobile, hesitant.
Right.
We don't like listening to them.
True. Is there any challenge you had faced initially and you overcome those challenges to become this confident person?
So there is no life which doesn't have a challenge to it.
True.
There is no life. There is not a single individual who has never faced a failure. I have faced ample amount of no's in my life. I have been a trainer, so listening to maybe non-acceptance of whatever work proposal you have put forth is a part and parcel of it.
True.
I think one of the most important things that you need to have within you is that positivity. So once you experience a low, you have to get up from it. You cannot be within that particular low always, isn't it?
Right.
That acceptance of low has to be there. And also, I think for today's youth, more than me, I'll say, for today's youth, I'll say, stop comparing yourself with others' journey. Your journey is your own journey, and you should enjoy your own journey. So the moment you drop that comparison part of it, I think you start relishing your own journey.
Right.
Am I correct in saying
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
So this is the Z generation. Should I say that millennial Z generation? So Insta, you want to be clicked in all the right places. You want to be having all the right everything with the right captions, and fear of missing out is there.
Right.
You're going to be carrying so many loads along with you. It's very difficult to. You'll be very critical about yourself, which is not required, because all these apps, the social media that we are looking at, the narrative is very linear in nature, and life is very multilinear. One thing I've learned in life is life keeps on throwing different challenges to you. And another thing I think I want to share over here is, it's not just on a professional front, Panisha. It's both, isn't it? Your professional and your personal life are gelled together.
Right.
So you could be experiencing lows in your personal life, and then at professional level, you might want to take it slow, and which is very fine.
Right.
I think I managed my career. I have got married when I was studying, and then I've taken it for. I have 2 children and their education, whatever. So you have to manage that. That's also a part of who you are.
Yeah.
You and you would experience ups and downs and challenges
Right.
in different parts, different levels of it. So you have to learn to gather it together. Also understand this, that it's not always consistently going to be up, 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 up.
True.
At some time you will plateau. At some time, maybe you want to take your professional life at the back front and maybe look more towards your personal life. That also is fine.
Right.
That's also is cool. And not to compare yourself with anyone else. So
True.
in my even in my circle, you can say students who have studied along with me, they have reached a certain levels and heights, and that's perfectly okay. Those are the choices that they made, and these are the choices that I have made, and I'm happy with my choices for the simple reason that I love what I do.
True. That is important. At the end of the day, you should be happy.
Correct.
So, tell me something about your mantra of success. What do you think it's important in life to grow in your career professionally?
I think first of all, we need to define what success means for each one of us, isn't
Right.
it? Is success in terms of material comforts that you're looking at? Is success in terms of achievement that you're looking at? Is success in terms of whatever goals you've set for yourself? Is it
Right.
in those terms? Like, I think I have never looked at life in terms of just success. I'm a very goal. If I have to define myself in any 3 ways, and for everything that would be there, I'm highly organized.
Okay.
I'm very positive, and I'm very determined.
Great.
So the moment I hear someone telling me no, and I have said that, so I become even more determined about doing and doing it. So this is something that's me. And I never listen to other people's opinion about not in the incorrect manner, but their opinions about what can be done and what can't be done.
True.
I see it's their thought process, it's their journey. I don't have to accept that those particular opinions as my founding truths.
Right. So it's time for the question answer session. If anyone do have any questions, they can use the raise hand option, or they can put their questions in the comment section. So Parth do have a question.
Yeah, Jatin has written one. Do
Okay,
you want to read it?
let's take Parth's question first.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Okay, Parth, you can ask your question now.
Yeah, Parth. Hello,
Parth, you
can you hear
unmute
us?
yourself, or you can put your question here in the comment section.
Good evening,
Yeah.
madam. Good evening, Mrs. Puri.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody on this meeting.
Yeah.
I would like to request, do you have any self-help books for communication, like any Dale Carnegie, like any courses we can attend online? Like myself, I am a 28-year-old person who has entered my own family business. So I was looking for some better soft skills grooming and speaking knowledge, so that I can enhance my communication with the white collar executives, and also with the top corporates in the company whom I deal. So any such recommendations, any books you recommend?
So Shilpa, would you like to recommend some books?
Yeah, could you just repeat his Could you just repeat his question? I mean, I got a
Yeah,
part
so
of it when
he
he
wanted
was
to
asking
know
for
about,
recommendation books.
yeah, some of the
And courses also, I
communication,
think
yeah,
he said
he
something
wanted
about
to-
that.
he
So
wanted to-
Parth, I guess that this would also answer Jatin's question, that instead of just books, because when we are looking at confidence building, it is more in terms of just see if it works for you. It's more in terms of a group situation. Because by yourself, answer me, you would be quite sorted inside your own mind. Am I correct in saying this?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, so it's more in terms of a group situation. It's not a learning exercise in that sense. So that's why if you would have noticed when Panisha asked me prior also that are there any particular books that I would recommend, the reason is that this is more a group exercise that has to be done. You have to articulate in front of a group. And it's not lack of English because you've just been speaking. So you are fluent in a given language and you're able to open up your mouth and speak about it. It's just the structure of it. And maybe losing that or gaining that body language confidence that has to be there in your non-verbal abilities that would be there, that has to be practiced in a group. So what I would suggest is you could look in your area and maybe find out some post makers groups are there. You could find out those groups, you could join them. That would be helpful for you. And this would be helpful even for Jatin.
Yeah.
So any such groups which come at a very nominal sort of a charge, and they are there for working individuals, and they are there on Sundays or Saturdays or off time wherever you have. And once a month or once a week they meet. You could join those groups.
Or you can use like online mediums to
You could,
this. Yeah,
yes,
free
yes.
e-learning
You could
courses
also
are there.
look at books by Anthony Robbins that is there. You could be having a look at his books also. Dale Carnegie books are always there. Any of the communication books, but like Parth, because since I'm a trainer and I'm into this particular field, instead of just looking at the books, because I feel articulation and your concern is about articulation. Your concern is not about
Yes, ma'am. Exactly,
fluency.
articulation.
So
like-
that's why I feel a group exercise, a group activity wherein you get to meet people and then exhibit a strength in it. That is what we'll be looking at. Does it make sense for you?
Yes, ma'am. Articulation and group activity.
Yes.
So any more questions?
So
I think we had-
someone
Yeah.
Bhavtosh has
Bhavtosh.
asked this question.
I'm
He's
considering
considering a career change. Which soft skills do you recommend I focus on to make myself more marketable in today's job market? Can you tell me what is your present career, or what is the career you're looking towards? I mean, what career are you looking towards as far as your change is concerned, Bhavtosh?
You can write your
Share with me.
comment section.
Product manager. Okay. And what's your number of years of experience that you have? So okay, great. So one of the things that I can say when you're looking at a managerial role, you're looking at a leadership role, whatever level it could be, even if I'm leading a team of 3, 4, or 5. When we look at leadership roles, something that they will be looking at in terms of your abilities is your team management ability. So how do you get your team together, your collaborative ability? How do you get everyone on the table? What are your previous experiences in this particular area? So it's all about then people management. So if I look at soft skills over here for you, and if I'm looking at a managerial role, I'm looking at the next level, it's going to be more in terms of people management. So listening, collaborative work, having clarity in giving your instructions is something that I would be looking at. More of communication in those terms. Is that good enough?
Soft skills plays
Yeah, but soft skills in terms of managerial roles will be more in terms of people handling skills.
Right.
People handling skills means how do I instruct better? How do I listen better? How do I ensure that I'm a more collaborative person? How do I get everyone on the table?
Right.
Negotiation, maybe conflict handling. These are the skills. So if you could reflect these skills in your present job and reflect it on your resume in some manner, then that will help you.
Right.
You will be considered. Another tip which I would want to give is that whenever we look at any job description, there are certain keywords which are given in that job description,
Right.
especially if I'm looking at other than the technical part of it, which each one of us would be aware. But the soft skills one, you have to ensure that we just don't write those words, but we have examples for all of those words in your interview also. So if
Right.
someone is telling me people management scheme, then I should be saying, okay, I have managed this team, I have done this, I've been
Right.
successful, this is the rate. These are the answers that have to come up.
Right.
So even for students, I always tell them that you should accept volunteership. You should accept some places where you're collaborating, where you're managing teams, where you're working in teams, maybe in larger groups, maybe taking instructions from above you and instructing those below you and getting everything in place. Because those are also valuable experiences, you know, in
True.
school life, college life.
Any other questions?
So I would want to answer Jatin's question in another perspective.
Yeah.
He's asking me that I'm an introvert. So there are two things we need to understand. So introvert is not to be mixed with shyness. Shyness is when I don't want to talk to people. Introvert means you don't feel the need to talk with people.
Right.
You will be surprised to know the majority of leading entrepreneurs around the world are all introverts. So
Right.
introvertism doesn't, in fact, because they don't need other people. Extroverts are ones whose energies are driven around other people. They feel more energized when they're interacting with others. So I would be an extrovert because this is my career choice, and that's a correct choice for me. Similarly, introverts are ones who are more maybe creative on their own, so they don't experience that need. So if that is an introverts don't have a problem talking with people at all.
Right.
It's just that need to voice out is not there. But when when asked for an opinion, they'll be able to state their opinion very clearly.
Right. So anyone do have any other questions? They can write it down, or you can use the raise hand option. I think that's it. I think we have. I just feel nervous in presenting. So would you like?
I think maybe having that structure which I suggested in place will help you out. Having a presentation script in place will help you out. And recording yourself, you know, once your presentation script is there, you should record yourself. Also, I'll always suggest this to anyone who comes in for coaching with me, or to anyone whom I coach also. The thing is that you need to have conversational English or conversational language when you're speaking with each other. So if you observe this, the conversation that Panisha and I are having, it's a very conversational sort of a language. We don't need to mug anything up. It's not a bookish language. We are not defining anything. And that's how your presentation should be. It should be conversational English. And then we don't have to rote learn it also. So if you're feeling nervous, then you need to have main pointers around which you're going to be speaking things and not rote learn it.
I think Jatin got his answers. Any more questions? Yes. I think that's it. Thank you, Shilpa, for joining us and share such a wonderful insights with us that might be helpful for all the students who are present there and who will watch this show after on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Panisha. Thank you for having me here. It was wonderful talking to you.
Same here, same here. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.